Excellent. A very good afternoon once again to all those viewers who have tuned in. I'm Dharmindher, one of the agents here in the Canningvale branch in the Aussizz Group. And today we're going to talk about skills assessments, but not all sort of skills assessment. Particularly, we are going to be talking about the TRA and what's supposedly underneath that would be the job ready program that most of you who are in the trade occupations would be subjected to complete. And we will talk about what is it, how is it, perhaps get you in on some shortcuts. Shortcuts meaning you can't make it any faster, but shortcuts to be aware of when you eventually apply for your skills assessment and how you go about demonstrating that you've actually got 12 months of evidence and whatnot. So we will let you know that shortly. So once that happens, we will get cracking on that. Sorry, we just had a little bit of a musical interlude just then. Now, things that happens on live, yeah. And we would also talk about, I say we, but actually it's just me around here, but Anna and I is what I'm referring to. We'll get your questions. We'll talk about anything that's pertaining to VETASSESS as well, which is very important because I'm going to share with you one or two very specific case studies of applications that we did, or in this case I did, and what is it, how is it, shortcomings, lesson learned, so that you guys don't make the mistake. So without further ado, don't want to give you the whole introduction of what TRA, which is Trades Recognition Australia, how is it and all that. If you're studying something that is a trade occupation now, and you finish the course of studies, your Cert 3, 4, diploma, and what have you, and presuming you've met the requirements to be on the temporary graduate visa, which is the 485, then you needed to have made preparations to commence your job ready program. Now, JRP is what we're going to be using the term from moving forward. So now we can use a lot of examples, but I'm just going to use for point of reference the chefs, the cooks. Now, chefs, once you finish your certificate 3 and once you finish your certificate 4, you can commence what is called a provisional skills assessment. Provisional being it's not a full skills assessment, in order to apply and be eligible for your temporary graduate visa, which is a 485. Now, the PSA, the provisional skills assessment, requires you to have 360 hours, and that's stage 1. For that, the 360 hours can comprise of, if you've been in a college that has a logbook of workplace training and you've attended and you've marked hours and what you've done and all of that, you can use all of that solely exactly 360 hours from that, or in the event that's not the case, it wasn't provided to you by your college, and you have been working and you've got pay slips, 20 hours a week once, not anything below that. And don't worry about what should be mentioned on the pay slip. Should it be having I'm a chef or a cook or a training? If you don't even have anything there, if it just is a pay slip, that's fine. That's in fact preferred. But if you're a trainee chef, trainee cook, no problems, you can use that, okay? So you can use all 360 of that hours, or you can mix and match. So if you have 200 from the college, 160 or so, or more if you like, just to be on the safe side, you can combine them. So when we make that, that is called the provisional skills assessment, which you can apply before you lodge your temporary graduate visa. That is a mandatory requirement. So once again, that process can take 2 months minimum, 3 max if you like, and TRA turns around and says, yep, fantastic, everything checks out. You fill your provisional skills assessment form. Your 360 hours is exactly checking out your duties, responsibilities, everything else that you've claimed and mentioned is all fantastic. They give you that, and you don't need to wait for that to arrive before you apply your 485, by the way, okay? So if you have time and you've managed to get that provisional skills assessment first, fine. And if you don't, because your visa is running out, you only manage to get this 360 hours for whatever various reasons. Don't worry, apply for the provisional skills assessment, get the receipt, and you're eligible for your 485, okay? And then basically, whilst waiting for the 485 grant, which is 2, 3, 4 months or whatever it might take, you are then waiting for this TRA to approve your provisional skills assessment. So the question majority of people ask, which is what I'm going to be concentrating on today, is what happens during that time? What happens if I'm 2.5, 3 months? Ooh, gee, I want to maximize this time because I've been working. And if you have, then your second stage is what is called the JRE, the Job Ready Employment. Now, for that to happen, remember, super important. I cannot even stress this any further than what I'm going to say next. Because a lot of students realize from their friends and they've read and they're all experts and they go, oh, I can register up to 4 employers during my entire job ready program. Don't worry about all of that. Just remember, if you've used your initial employer, let's say you've got 160 hours or all 360 hours, and you wanted to, whilst waiting for the provisional skills assessment to be assessed, you're working. Like I said, you're also waiting for your 485 to be granted. Let's say it takes more than 3 months. You are allowed up to 3 months of work experience hours to be claimed whilst you're waiting towards the number of hours you need to meet for your stage 2. So just remember that. But you need to have the same employer, because if you jump to a new employer, it gets complicated. So just understand just this much. Preferably the same employer that you had and you were working, you can use during that time whatever the hours may be. Of course, you don't say, oh, I want to claim 60 hours a week, which is how I was working, which is probably what you end up doing. Within reason, whilst you have work rights, you just claim whatever is permissible from that perspective. Use that towards your stage 2. Very important. I mean, use that. Brilliant, isn't it? Because in some cases, some people have spent, oh God, 4, 5, 6, 7 months waiting for the 485 grant, which we all have enough horror stories from people about how long it takes. But meanwhile, the TRA only allows you 3 months of work experience that you can use from that. So use that same employer is what I'm trying to say. Now, in the event, pandemic, things happen, you were not able to use, and that's another scenario that you can present that case. So just remember that. Now, when you've done that, and when you've, say, claim your 863 hours, you close to finishing, remember you have to use at least the same employer for 6 months. You remember that, because if you don't, then your summary reports, everything that you've claimed, supervisor, who, what, your duties, responsibilities, they need to assess that. They need to see that you're actually doing that quite consistently. And by the way, can I let you all know that if you don't know already, for stage 1, TRA allows you to use an agent, myself or whoever else, to help you in the application process. So from stage 2 onwards, your JRE, when you do your summary reports, your job ready verification in summary reports and all of that, which is your stage 2, TRA doesn't allow that. So be mindful. Sometimes with my clients, what I do is that they come down, I just explain to them, and it's one of those things that we can assist you in that manner, but no representation is seemingly made. So just be aware of that. It's a bit of a complex, funny little situation, but as long as you keep your records, your summary reports, you keep everything else, you shouldn't really have a problem. Now, the other question a lot of people ask is, then what happens when I have what happens during the assessment? Now, what do you think happens during the assessment? You have studied commercial cookery, certificate 3, 4, diploma, advanced diploma, and all the rest of it. Now you need to be working, training, or whatever you want to call it, in a commercial kitchen, planning, doing something. The assessor is going to come, and let's say They're going to ask you, depending on where you're working, if you're working in a Mediterranean restaurant, you're working in Hong Kong, in some place, which is my favorite, by the way. I'll tell you where I go, but that's for another conversation, if anybody's paying attention. Now, you could be in an Indian restaurant or for wherever. So the person is going to come down and see and assess where you are, and is going to ask you particular information about, do this or do that, or cut this or present this or prepare. And so it's a physical little assessment. Now, if, for example, if they ask you to, go and get something from somewhere, and you just went like you would in your own home or something without the proper maybe gloves, or you didn't open the oven correctly, steps, procedures, and stuff like that. They are just going to note that are you doing whatever you're supposed to do in a safe, proper, orderly, timely, whatever fashion. You don't have to be that precise, like as if you're working in Master Chef or something. You got to be that presentation skills. No, they want to test you on whether are you aware of how and what in terms of orders and actions and what do you have to do to safely carry out what you're supposed to do. Now, if you don't know that, you're going to be marked against that, and that's not going to be fun. All right, so they're not going to mark you on taste or something like that. So at least within reason, if you don't know how to, bone or meat, chicken or whatever that you're going to do, then you have a problem. All right. So that's when they know whether have you actually been doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, a lot of the times people finish their 1 year exactly to the dot, and they've claimed their. And by the way, when you've done 1 year, that's also allowing you later on when you're applying for your own permanent visas to claim points on your 1 year of work experience. But make sure you be very careful that when you're claiming that 1 year, when you finish with an employer, as you say, try to work a little bit longer, maybe work for another month and a half or two, because when you want to claim that work experience, you want to be mindful that when you actually present pay slips, bank statements and your salaries and your superannuation and whatever you've been getting, as well as your tax that you pay, that is actually for 12 months. You actually worked 20 hours a week in all those times, nothing below. Because should you, in retrospect, and then if you go back and count that, actually in their 12 months, I went on 3 weeks leave. How do you think that's going to figure out? Because TRA is going to ask you, oops, hang on, I don't think so this adds up unless you demonstrate that. So, but if you've left, you finish, you better have enough time left on your visa to complete that. Just remember that. So, again, if you're not already doing this and you're wanting to do this because you might think, geez, what am I talking about? It might be foreign to you. But if you're already in your second and third stage, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, another quick thing. Pandemic, closed door policy. You need any updates from TRA? Apparently, when you're on stage 2 and 3, you don't seem to get any immediate feedback from them. Don't worry, don't despair. Keep all your records, keep everything that you've done with your summary reports and everything else, and it's actually there. That means you know that you have, if you've changed an employer, oh my God, you better register that employer. Because if you don't register the employer, new employer, you cannot go back to TRA especially and says, oh, and by the way, the last 4 months or 5 months, which is your time, you've been paid and all that, but remember your 18 months of your 485 is just going to literally, close in on you, and you're going to lose valuable time. So TRA won't let you do that unless you have officially registered that employer and then begin to use time and payslip from that employer moving forward to your second and third stage. Very important, right? So in a nutshell, ensure your pay slips are accurate. You've claimed 20 hours a week from what you have shown for your 1 year. Make sure that you're aware of your environment, what you're doing when you're paying and asking for your assessment. And as soon as your assessment is done, then that's well and good. The final assessor comes in, obviously charges you some money, blesses you, and gives you the assessment which you will get for both cook and chef. And obviously, most of you are going to be going under chef. And then that's it. Then you've got the all-important skills assessment, and then you can pretty much move on to, say, whatever the visas that's eligible for you, the 491, 190, and what have you. based on your points. So that in a nutshell is TRA, job ready program, and what have you. Before I jump on to VETASSESS, I just need to check to see if we have any questions about this first, because it's easier to talk about this and this only for now. And then if there are other questions which we are always known to get, then we can get them. But if we have any questions, let me just check if Anna on JRP, TRA, and anything to do with that, we can take some questions before we go to VETASSESS.
I've got one question from Venkat.
Yep.
He's asking, hi, I'm doing my JRP as a baker. Started his JRP on December 2020 and finished his step 3 on September 2021. And going to finish his 1,725 hours by November 2021. So started on December 2020, September 2021, he finished third step. This November, he will finish 1,725.
Yep.
Do I need to still
Continue.
until three? Yeah, word for word, he has written, my question is, do I need to still until December 2021 to get my skills assessment, or I am eligible on 3rd of November? So when he finishes his
not exactly. Brilliant, even though it's a very long question, and that's actually benefit some of the other viewers or listeners at the same time. Don't just go just by the date for whatever various reason, unless it's really, really important. But as far as possible, from what Anna has read, your question is, if you can go beyond that until you officially get the assessment, you're still working. Carry on that, because it might take 2-3 weeks for that. So that's all going to be helpful in making sure that it's just not on November 3rd in your question, Venkat. So just remember that, okay? So you still have time on your visa anyway. So carry on is what I'm trying to say before you officially finish. Yeah. So cool. Maybe we might get another question on that. Should that be the case? Perhaps some of the questions that are looming. So I want to talk about VETASSESS. One of my top 3 assessing bodies. VETASSESS is a very interesting body. Now, if anybody from VETASSESS is listening, hello, and could you make it a little bit more easier? Is perhaps my message to them. It is easy if, say, for example, you applied for one of them. I did construction project manager, say, for example. The title says that construction project manager, and some of you would have studied some aspect of your degree of some kind. That unfortunately, unlike the accountants and the engineers, where you finish your studies, you get a skills assessment, no questions asked. Some occupations require you to work 1 year, 20 hours a week, post-qualification in the last 5 years. Super, super simple and super, super important. 1 year, post-qualification in the last 5 years, 20 hours a week at what VETASSESS will deem at the equivalent level of not just qualifications, but experience at the same time. So if that happens, then any euphoria around you is just going to subside, because you need to remember that until they firstly assess your qualifications is what they're going to say is at that level. So first thing they're going to say is, yep, your qualification is AQF level, meets Australian this and that, the other. Fantastic, they give you the thumbs up. Then in the case of what I just gave you an example, which is a construction project manager, or the recently very weird titles when I say it, but seemingly we went through that, and this were occupations that are still on the list, by the way. Organization methods analyst. Now, somebody may have done MBA, somebody may have done some qualifications pertaining to that. VETASSESS says, yeah, fantastic, that's at that level. You have subject matter that is also particularly important to what you are saying that you have worked in at the same time. Then VETASSESS will literally ask you, you need to show what were your duties, responsibilities, not just as per your ENSCO code, which we all are very good about. We all champions about that. We put ENSCO code, which says, 9 bullet points. Organization methods analyst. I I look at the CRM, I look at the manuals, I look at the processes. Yeah, fantastic. Don't match it just because what you see on the ANSCO code. Match it on the basis that firstly, does the organization actually do that? Do you actually do that? And of course, if you do, then you have a duties and responsibilities, job duties and responsibilities statement signed by a supervisor of that nature. And remember, organization methods analyst is just an example. And that title in itself just shows that that's who your title is. So what sometimes VETASSESS normally does is they say, oh, for ease of understanding, can you give us an organizational chart to just show us just where you are in the hierarchy within the organization? Now, if you say you know what I'm talking about, you do an org chart and you just say, I'm here, but I'm reporting to this and that report, so that's fine. And they can see a schematic workflow of what, who, and where you are within the organization. That just adds a little bit more oomph to your overall application, aside from actually matching duties and responsibilities. Which reminds me, I've done a fair few chemists, very popular, right? Chemists, people have done various studies. They've got chemistry major, they've done biotechnologies, they've done all kind of funny little stuff that they've studied offshore, onshore, and whatnot. And they come down here and they realize, now I need to, whatever they've studied, they need to now work 1 year post-qualification the last 5 years, and they've proved that. They've got duties, responsibilities, salaries, and everything else. So chemist is very interesting, right? So you could be a soil chemist. You could be one that works in a yogurt factory. I'm drawing this from real experiences from people who actually did that. Yes, the company will endorse you and say, yes, you did this and that, the other. You looked at the culture of this and the food, and you were doing QA, QC, you were looking at the fresh produce and all that wonderful stuff that goes towards being a chemist, by the way. So what they want to see is that did that somewhat complement your qualifications as well? So if it is not, and you somewhat ended up in that role by virtue of some other means, you might not be assessed favorably, because there's two components to it. Remember what I said? Your qualifications aspect of it, as well as what exactly did you end up doing. Some occupations have what is called within the VETASSESS guidelines a little hyperlink called an information sheet. So it pays to go click, open that up, read broadly towards what specifics are they looking at, because VETASSESS might want to say, right, if you wanted to come as an actuarial science, which you are doing, or a mathematician or a university lecturer. So they want to see all of that. So if you are, without going into specifics of occupations, it is so important to click that. That gives you not just saying that, oh, you got 1 year in the last 5 years. They want to see a little bit more. They want to see, oh, well, did you have majors of qualifications in an ABC? And if you have, then this one corresponds to that. And if you don't, then you don't. So many examples to go into. People who did agricultural science. Oh, okay, hang on, do I be an agricultural consultant, or shall I be an agricultural scientist? So duties, responsibilities, tasks. I cannot stress how important this can be, especially more so if you're running out of time and you are, I want to get this thing done. Which, by the way, if you've never applied for VETASSESS before, you can apply what is called a fast track. Obviously, they need more money from you, and you pay that. You can seemingly get a decision within 20 days. And if you get that, and if it's a positive one, fantastic. And if you've gone through fast track and God forbid you didn't get a positive assessment, unfortunately you can't use fast track again. So that's just one of those things. So hence why it's so important to come down, sit down. And I do this with literally all my clients. I says, no, don't just send me a resume or talk to me on the phone. Come down, because I need to see and talk to you, because you are the one who is a subject matter in your area of work. Yeah, I know about assessment, I know about migrations, I think policies. However, when I sit down and I ask you, I says, well, let's look at the ANSCO code. What do you think? Do you think this matches? What are you currently doing? What's your duties, responsibility statements? And then they put that, and then we go into that item by item. Only what we are comfortable with is when we either redraft, we redraw, we restate all those re's, we put it together and we submit. Hopefully we don't have to resubmit. So we just submit that once, get a positive assessment, we should be good to go. So yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've got a quick question regarding VETASSESS.
Okay.
Before you move on. Malu is asking, can you elaborate how the VETASSESS motor mechanic technical interview works? So there is a technical interview in VETASSESS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so he chose to do motor mechanic from them. Okay, you can go to TRA as well. So if it's a technical interview, virtually you're a motor mechanic. A technical interview would actually, they will choose a particular site and you could be present, assessing at the same time. So it's no longer just an oral interview at the same time. Then if it requires you to demonstrate knowledge, not just verbally, that's when you do not just a theoretical, but a very practical aspect of the assessment. That can take from anything an hour or 2 or 3, and usually it's quite quickly because they will know straight away whether you know what you're doing or you don't. So that is a pre-arranged, pre-approved time, and then that's seemingly how it happens.
I've got TRA and JRP related questions now.
Cool.
Do you want to move on to questions?
Just to finish up on the VETASSESS, right? So so just remember, if you have a doubt that my duties, responsibilities might not correspond, I think it's best not to just go and extrapolate aspect from ENSCO code and take a job duties and responsibilities from SEEK for that job, and he says, okay, I think I can mix and match, and I tell my employer to put this, and I'm going to go and do that. Because let's say you did that. Let's assume you did that. And let's assume you did that for cafe restaurant manager. And God forbid, you didn't realize that they are going to call the person who is signing off that's saying that you are doing all of this, which is what I have for cafe restaurant managers. And I successfully have done a few of these where I've also realized that they do ask, where exactly for cafe restaurant managers are you in there? So if you say you're a cafe restaurant manager answerable to a chef, for example, or a head chef, you cannot be answerable to a head chef. If you're a cafe restaurant manager, you are the cafe restaurant manager of the whole place. You may be answerable to maybe the director. You could be answerable to someone else within the hierarchy, whatever the names that you can think of. Why? Because cafe restaurant managers will be called the place of work, and they will ask you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour in some cases, or 1 hour. They've grilled some of the applicants themselves that, okay, so what does person A do at work? So tell me, it says down here that he liaises and deals daily with the head chef in terms of the operation, the cost, the running, the buying, the budgeting. Is he overall in charge is what they want to see. So the minute they find something not right, they're going to fail you. I'm not even joking. It's not fun because they say, well, you're not really a manager, are you? You were a supervisor. You were an assistant manager. What are you applying for? Cafe restaurant manager. You're not applying as a supervisor. You're not applying as an assistant. So be mindful of that. Be certain that if you're going to state something, be able to back it up. And if you are, and there's nothing to worry about, they will call, they verify, no problems, and you go through that. Okay, so they don't physically go down there and ask you for cafe restaurant managers, but they will do proper, thorough, word for word, point for point checks on your provided information. Now, assuming you pass all of that, that's fantastic. You get a 2-page printout, usually by the same person, Dr. Mumtaz Chauhan, who basically signs off for everybody else to say, hey, yeah, it's fantastic, you are successful, and then we live happily ever after. In the event that you're not, then they tell you, okay, why and how, very briefly, why is not, because you said this, or your qualifications wasn't there, or whatever the various reason. then you either appeal or you resubmit, and all of that misery starts from there. So if that's not the case, then you have a VETASSESS, and that's valid for you to apply, and then we come and talk options for whatever visas that you wanted to apply correspondingly. So that's, in a nutshell, VETASSESS. So if you have a question on that, I'm happy to take, or I'm happy to jump back onto TRA and JRP that I think Anna is going to read out for me.
I don't have any more VETASSESS related question, but I've got a lot of JRP and TRA questions.
Cool.
So let's go to Monica. What documents do I need to claim my JRP experience points? I'm going to complete my JRP soon.
Oh, okay. You're going to complete that. Then everything that you've done with them, which you would have done online, your summary reports, your verification letters, your pay slips, which is essentially that. I mean, there's nothing too much about that. I mean, that's the bulk of what you need to do. The full comprehensive, this is within the TRA, so please go and check that up if you're in stage 3 or stage 4. But literally, the final assessment is when the assessor comes and blesses you and you get that through. But to answer your question, specifically, what are you assessing? You've given a name of a person that is whom they need to contact. That is this person doing X, Y, Z? And you've kept notes of that. You've kept those progress reports, the summary reports. That's what they need to see. And if you said all of that, you need to back it up by the timelines, which timelines are what from your duties, your responsibilities, and your salary, your pay slips. And that's where they know that this is who you are and what you did from which time to which time. So that sort of should take care of that.
She's also asking, is it necessary to get the super while working on ABN?
The super, so is it necessary to get paid superannuation? Superannuation is a mandatory requirement if you're working in Australia. So whether you're on ABN or not, I think that's something that you need to have a discussion with. If it's not your employer, then someone else. But by and large, you're working here, and if you're working in a capacity of whatever your arrangement is, which most of the time, if you're working more than 20 hours a week, which you already are, then you should be and need to be paid your superannuation, which we can have a discussion, maybe another session for superannuation, but yes, you need to.
Malu, who was asking about the technical
for the motor mechanic
interview. So he's asking, I'm a motor mechanic in India. I have 3 years of experience. My sister lives in Adelaide. Which visa is suitable for me?
Right. So since you're not here, and you're trying to get an assessment done in that occupation, which is on the long-term skills list, then your sister is eligible to also sponsor you on the 491 family. And since she's in Adelaide, Adelaide is regional, you can claim points from that, Malu. And essentially, you need a skills assessment to be eligible for that, which is what you're trying to do. And based on your points, you can lodge an expression of interest and just join the queue and see what your chances are, because I don't know, how many points you have in what other areas, how your age, your English, your overseas experience, and your qualifications and all that, which based on the fact that you are offshore, you'll be very hard pressed. You need to have 50 points of your own before you are eligible to get 15 from your sister. And so not an easy option, but if you have those on your own and if you wanted to apply on 189, good luck. I don't see any motor mechanic being invited on 80, 85 points.
Mary, she's asking, my husband is finishing his course on December. He's also done 360 hours. Can he apply for the first step of JRP even though he has not got his certificate of diploma?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, Mary, so what you're going to do is if he's done a Certificate 3 and Certificate 4, and he's enrolled or completing his diploma, by virtue of having completed his Certificate 4, he can commence applying for the PSA, is what you're talking about, the Provisional Skills Assessment, which is JRP. It's all these acronyms, JRP, PSA, CIA, KGB, let's not go there. So yes, JRP is a job ready program run by who? TRA, Trace Recognition Australia. And you need to apply that, what is called PSA, Provisional Skills Assessment. Yes to all those questions.
Twinkle is asking.
Twinkle! Wow, okay. Hey, Twinkle.
I'm working in restaurant full-time. Now got my TRA PSA successful, but I have my student visa till April 2022. So can I start my step 2 to 4 now on student visa?
You cannot do your job ready program on a student visa. That's why it's called job ready program, because you need full-time work rights. So now if whatever your situation was, if you started your JRP because you didn't realize.
She's got give more information
Yeah.
here. I have one more concern. I have done my advanced diploma in hospitality management. So once I done my 1,725 hours for JRP, after that, can I straight apply 491 or 190? Still, I have applied my 485, but it's under process. So I think 485 is on the process and she's on student visa. And it's expiring in April 2022.
Okay. So hers is an interesting one. So she, for whatever various reason, just how did she get herself into this funny situation? Because usually when you're on a student visa, sorry, running this in my head, your student visa, your visa is about to end. You wanted to apply your 485, which you have, and you had already applied your provisional skills assessment, and you've lodged your 485. Meanwhile, you are carrying on, waiting for your 485 grant. Your second stage can only commence when your 485 is granted. But if your 485 is granted, but you just said your 485 is not granted, which I find very strange, because on a student visa, just before it ends, you meet the eligibility to apply your 485, and you have applied your 485, but you've also applied your first stage, the 360 hours. You managed to get that, given it to the 485 team, they look at it, it goes fantastic. Your 485 can take 4, 5, 6 months to be granted. Meanwhile, like I said in the very beginning, whilst waiting for the 485, your stage 2, whatever hours that you've worked, you can only use 3 months of work experience. So I'm quite confused with what your scenario is. So something is not adding up.
I think, Twinkle, you can fill up the form that's in the link in the comment section, and then Dharmindher can get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you call me over the phone, Twinkle, we might figure out how to make you a star.
Yeah. Venkat is asking again. Thank you for your suggestion, Dharmindher. I think he was the first question we took about his JRP. He's saying, currently I'm living in regional Victoria, working 38 hours as a baker, and now I got job in New South Wales regional as a baker for 16 hours. So can I work in Victoria and New South Wales to be eligible for both states? My Victoria regional workplace to New South Wales regional workplace is just 1 hour. So these two work are just 1 hour travel in Victoria and New South Wales.
Wow.
So just thinking to do both jobs, is that okay to apply for New South Wales 190 after 3 months working in New South Wales?
Oh, gee, we were going to get a technical, crazy one. I know. Look, I think sorry, good question. Without knowing fully what specifics, if you're thinking about meeting the requirements for, say, New South Wales 491, and if it required you to be living and working and doing everything in regional, you can't then say, oh, by the way, I did that 1 hour. You had to do because your situation was such and you were getting a job and all the rest of it. 1 hour away, you could be just near the border, yeah. But be mindful of that, because you can do that for work purposes, but for applying for that, I mean, you just need to be, and I think it's fair to say, we got to be very mindful of, if you strayed into the 190 area where you were only eligible for the 190 only and not the 491, then how does it work out? It's going to be a disadvantage for you. So be aware of that. I don't know enough about the case to comment. I know about what the requirements are. Again, I'm very happy to take a query, to talk to you on the phone, and then be like, oh, hang on, that's what you're saying. So I'm happy to take that sort of question.
Yeah, so Venkat, you can just fill up the form that's in the comment section, and then Dharmindher will get in touch with you. Another question is from Deepesh. Hi, I'm graduated as sub-engineer back in Nepal. Diploma in
sub-engineer, is it what?
Sub-engineer.
Sub-engineer.
SUB.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, submarine engineer probably, yeah.
I think it's a more civil draftsperson.
Okay.
Because he did diploma in civil engineering, 3 years course.
Okay.
Worked for 1 year, 20 hours per week.
Mm-hmm.
And currently working as a civil draftsperson in engineering company.
Okay.
Applied for the skills assessment, and he's in Nepal. He has applied for the skills assessment, and it's been the 9th week. Haven't got any response back. What is your response about this?
Let's pray for a reply. There is nothing I can do from this side, let alone you, because you didn't apply for a fast track, or you may not have been eligible for that purpose. 9th week is a hell of a long time. The saying goes, no news sometimes is good news. If they haven't asked you information, they haven't prodded along, 9 weeks is, goodness me, we're talking about how many months is that? That's serious, right? So you can write into them, you can ask them, and it doesn't hurt to ask them. Say, hey, just checking what's happening and see what they say. If they haven't replied, then just sit back. Or if they've asked you information intermittently, and make sure you check your stuff to see that they have actually contacted you, and you can go back to your portal and you can see submitted application. Is there anything that they need to know? And then they will ask you. And if it isn't, then it's just whatever their standard processing time is, then you just wait. Sometimes it's pretty frustrating. Hopefully they haven't asked you something that says, oh, your 3 years is not equivalent. They want to see this. They will ask you all sort of funny questions. Just be prepared for that.
Next question is from Upasana. She has not mentioned the occupation. She's just asking, can I claim my work experience in skills assessment? I have been working since 6 months in my field, and I have my work experience letter ready. Also, my job contract is for 2 years and has done PY as well. So it should be accounting, IT, or engineering related.
Yeah. So I suppose I'm thinking, Anna, that she must be talking about that she has already done a PY, she's done everything else, but she's got 6 months of work experience. So if she's referring to perhaps applying for an EUI, and if they've asked you upon invitation, they've asked you for a job offer letter or contract, then you want to see that whether the 6 months that you've worked, is that 6 months related? Is it relevant? And if it is, then it's fantastic. And if it's not, then really the preparations here is, you can use that. You can use that in some capacity. So
she's asking for skills assessment, if she can use the work experience for skills assessment.
Yeah.
If you can just, Upasana, she says it's related. Upasana, can you let us know what your nominated occupation is?
Yeah.
Because it's a bit, we can't really tell what you're asking actually.
No, I mean, yeah, I think if they've done 6 months of work experience, and if you manage to say I'm just trying to understand that if you get 6 months of work experience, firstly, you can't use that to claim points. You need 1 year of work experience to say that you've worked 1 year, 20 hours a week, to get the 5 important points, if that's what your question is.
So she has mentioned her occupation is network and system engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So her first question, going back to it, can I claim my work experience as a network and system engineer?
Yeah.
Okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, not for 6 months.
It needs to be 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah. So it's IT related occupation.
Correct. So yeah, then she said something about PY, right? She's done.
Yeah, she has already done PY. So
Yeah.
on that basis,
You've done PY, all fantastic. It's all good. You probably got a skills assessment already, like you said. It's a computer network systems engineer or whatever.
yeah.
But you can't claim any points if you haven't worked for 1 year. This is my point. You've worked for 6 months. That's fine, fantastic. Upon invitation, you can demonstrate that to meet whatever the requirements is. But in order to claim 5 points, you need to have worked 1 year here. I suppose that's what it is. Okay.
So on the basis of a PY, she can get the skills assessment done.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because skills assessment for ACS is either you work 1 year or PY or 2 years overseas experience.
Okay. Supreet, I have completed JRP as painter. I have 75 points on my own. Which state is good option? He's currently in Victoria.
Okay. I had a painter ask me this question from New South Wales or Victoria, I can't remember. So as of last week, if you wanted to apply, say, in WA, they made the changes that preference is given to people who are residing here. So you would have qualified under Schedule 2 in WA. Let's talk about WA, which is my state. I can probably say a little bit more about it because I know a little bit more. Then 75 points, yes, Schedule 2, you apply, expression of interest, you as of last week, you can apply, it's not stopping you, but preference is given to people who are residing. So they've made that change. Now, if let's say you've got some time left and on your visa and you manage to get a job down here because you finish, you wanted to come down here and paint the town red, come down to WA, apply on the basis that you are residing here, see what your chances are, at least in that regard, because you might get the all-important 491, 190, or whatever the case is based on the quota that WA has, which is 25% for trade occupations. Not much happening just yet, so then you might want to see what the requirements are in some other states. We don't want to get into details, but some other states might require living and working there in that occupation for 6 months, which is becoming more and more what most states are sort of pushing for. So be mindful of that.
Amita, I'm going to start JRP Step 2 of 1,725 experience, but my visa is till August next year. I don't have 12 months to complete JRP, but I'm eligible for second TR. So can I start JRE now or on next
She's eligible
visa?
for second TR, that means the extension.
Yeah, but she's doing JRP, so shouldn't that be graduate stream?
No. So what these people do is sometimes good pickup, right? So she's eligible because she's taking this course on her own while she's done a degree, she's done a concurrent study.
Oh, okay, yeah,
so
makes sense.
That's the only way it can make sense, all right?
Yeah.
All right. So as Anna was reading up and rightfully pointing out, so firstly, if your visa ends in August, and by the way, firstly, I want to say thank you very much for the questions. Brilliant. I'm really engaging and I like that. It really makes both our days because they are questions pertaining to what our subject matter is, right? So coming back to you, August, your visa ends, but you're eligible for TR extension. TRA doesn't know that. The TRA is going to say, oh, you want to do that bit that you're talking about. But as long as you tell them, firstly, you just commence, you just start. Don't worry, just carry on and whatnot. Because you know that you are going to be running out of time. Then, and you also know you're eligible for the extension, you carry on. You carry on as per normal because they are not aware that you are in that situation that is good, that you are eligible for a TR extension. So when you are, and because you can demonstrate that you have work rights, then you can continue finishing that bit that you just started, if that makes sense. Cool? Supreet, right? Was it? Yeah. Amita, sorry. Getting them all mixed up.
Hey. Okay, so all the JRP related questions are done. There are a few WA related questions.
Why not? If you have some time, maybe we can.
Yeah, we've got like 10 minutes to go.
Okay,
now.
cool.
So we'll just take non-topic related questions.
Okay. I mean, I think you can filter them through some time. Yes.
Just is asking 75 points for finance manager. Any chance to get 190 WA?
Absolutely no. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've got clients who didn't get that on those points. Now, I also don't know when you applied your EOI. So all of these factors are the ones seemingly making a difference in your case. So I do apologize if I emphatically said no, but because that's where you say any chance. Now, the invitation round was yesterday, as most of you know, was bumped a lot of invitations. We had a lot of invitations and everybody got excited and what have you. But I got a few who were on 80 points. Yeah, so you've got to be careful of just when you applied and what points that you have. So finance manager, just hold on. If you got some time, don't just wait on 190. Try to see what happens for your 491 at the same time. By the way, if you have applied for 491, you will get 491. Remember that. If you only think that I want to try to get 190, then apply 190, depending on how much time you left on your visa. Just remember that and better your points. Sorry, Anna.
The next question is from, sorry, I can't read the name because it's in a different language.
Okay.
I have done Certificate 4 in Training and Assessment apart with my ICT Security Specialist. I have a positive skills assessment with 65 points. Any chance in any state? I'm regional Victoria. So ICT Security Specialist with 65 points for any state. Any chance?
Wow.
And he's even asking for 65 for 189, which probably is a
miracle. You can be invited for 189 if it's a computer error, and if they suddenly invite you. But I don't see your chance for 189. Now let's cut straight to your chances on those variables that you have, which cannot improve. Because if you're not able to improve anything else, that's why you're saying you can only max out at 65. At the moment, not even going into the specifics of meeting the eligibility requirements, you're a resident, you're working for 6 months and blah, blah, blah. 65 points in today's game, although you have the benchmark, you have the prerequisites, you just don't get invited based on the ranking of that. But however, South Australia, funny enough, somebody was saying that you could go live and be there, say for 491 for 6 months, Greater Adelaide or whatever you're working in the areas and whatnot. But you need to work in a nominated occupation, or at least close enough. Then your chances are there if you have enough visa. So go explore South Australia if you need that, and let me know how you go your chances. And don't fancy your chances on 65 is what I'm saying. Purely because of competition. That's all.
Next question. What was the minimum points for registered nurse community or aged care in October round for the invitation?
So October round just happened yesterday. So do we have that information live?
I'm trying to find it out for you.
While she's trying to find it out, maybe I'll read another question, but I'll find that out and whatnot. Oh, sorry, she's going to find that out. But I think.
From our office, I think we only had one invitation for registered nurse, and of course it's from general stream because it's in the. But I've got the information here. I can read it out for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we're looking at some serious points. 80, 85, perhaps 70. No, I don't think so. 70.
85.
See.
With bachelor qualification. Proficient English, EOI effect date October 2021.
Wow. So they were lucky as anything.
For mental health.
For mental health on top of that.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's for your mental health. Now to note that 85 points was what generated an invite. That's pretty serious.
But we didn't receive anything for aged care or community.
Exactly. So
but that's based on our.
But that's based on the people that we've applied and whatnot. So, and by the way, that information just doesn't become available on any other site to say, the state nomination is not going to say that, oh, this is the number of points, and this is, you just got to be mindful. This is what we gather, and we post happily on our website, and so I'm sure some of you guys have been following, which, by the way, is put together by the lady behind the camera, which you haven't seen, and her name is Anna, and we try to provide some sort of benchmarking so that at least these are the questions. Is this right? What was happening in 75 points in September, and so forth. And the finance manager will ask that question: what are the chances on 75 points for 190? And that's why I said to you, no, because we know for a fact 75 in September was not even invited for 491. How are they going to invite you for 190? So this is why we know straight up what are the chances. Okay, so just remember that. Yeah. But I mean, depending on when they apply UI, there's so many other factors. Let's just understand that.
Okay. Oh yeah, because like a lot of people were also saying like mechanical engineers, because we got in invitation at 70 points for mechanical engineers, and a lot of people were saying people with 90 points are still waiting.
But when was the EUI launched?
And like you said, they only give priority to people who are living in WA
absolutely,
at the moment. Yeah, so they need to consider all these things.
A lot of factors. They applied under those streams. If you're under GOL, if you are here, see how it goes.
Okay. So I think we can wrap up now because we don't have any more related questions.
Cool. Wrap up is almost the last bit of the water. So you've sat through a lot of my sessions for the last 3 weeks. Today is the penultimate fourth in a series of things that we're going to be covering. We found that it's become quite popular. A lot of people actually find this helpful. And if you do, or if you know of, you know how to contact us. You know that we will put on more of this from our capacity. But at the same time, I'm happy to say this on air, a lot of this information is real time. Like, for example, you're asking us things about, WA, what happened? The invitation round just happened yesterday. So in some cases or in some event, if your question or your circumstance is such that it's not too dire, you have some time, you needed a little bit more, thing to come back on, you know how to contact us, you have our details. We will try our level best to get back to you, and I think some of you have been contacted. You've filled out some questions, and I think I've emailed you and so forth, and let's keep that dialogue open, and hopefully, we can come to some sort of happy solution for your immediate needs and your pathway. Without further ado, I want to say thank you. I do enjoy these sessions and do like to talk about things that is related and that can help you better yourself and whatnot. And thank you. Dharmindher signing off from Canningvale, Aussizz Group. Have a nice day.